It was a bright, sunny morning, dew-lined grass, frost on the windshields of each parked car that I drove by. Bad decisions, cavalier attitude, and no fear all led up to that day. Many things I did, I got away with. I was a kid. I was 16 years old. I pulled up to a stop sign at the exit of my neighborhood with 3 friends in my car, on the way to pick up number 4 and then on to school. I had a moment of insight. Kind of like old cop movies, when on the day of retirement, the person gets hurt or worse because they are speaking of retirement. I turned to my friends and I said, guys, I'm going to start driving slower and safer. I challenged myself to distance from the detrimental norms that I was accustomed to. I was discussing my retirement from my reckless decisions. At the following stoplight, which was green for me, the traffic heading the opposite way was at a standstill. Cars were backed up into the intersection, and the driver of the pickup truck facing me started to wave me over. I gently crept my car over to make a left and crash. Turns out, the second lane wasn't backed up, and a town car plowed right into us. In a moment, life brought me to a place of crisis, fueled by pain and fear. This was over 27 years ago, and I still remember the hurt, the worry about my friends, and oh man, I still remember the worry about what my parents were going to say. Beyond that, most of that day is a blur, except in the immediate time of crisis, a voice. A voice. You are not alone. I'm here with you. Simple words. 4 simple words. You are not alone. Luckily, my friends and I and the other driver were physically okay. However, one long-standing impact of that moment that still resides with me is that flash. I can still feel that flash, that sensation, that feeling of comfort, relief, connection, and hope. 4 simple words. Throughout the years, I've reflected and revisited that moment. A moment that I feel has shaped who I am as an individual and a professional. That moment has brought me to understand that no matter our differences, which are plentiful, we all have one thing in common. One trait, that desire, that one binding thread, that common wish, that need for acknowledgement. This journey of life we travel is populated by an inherent need for acknowledgement. That feeling of being heard, understood, respected, and valued. This simple human characteristic represents a commonality which should unite us. However, this trait equally and easily can create divides. In healthcare, we commit to help and support others with the intent to improve whatever ailment, disease, disorder that one presents with. Many approach this mission and relationship with empathy and understanding, and others, not so much. That mindset of process, checklists, volume, and metrics cloud the equation of interaction and the impact, the delivery of care, and one's ability and or willingness to connect. Though dedicated to help, connection and empathy are not measured on paper. Self-reflection. Self-reflection is a powerful tool and skill. Let's walk through this together. Take a moment and think of the last time you felt acknowledged. And yes, that includes when you got a thank you card, an award, a medal, a trophy. However, let's dive a bit deeper to a moment when you were in crisis. Now, remember, how did you feel when someone acknowledged you? How did you feel that they demonstrated that they understood your predicament and your emotions? I felt hope. I felt safety. I felt connected. I felt heard. I felt relief. Within seconds, the trajectory of my life and mindset was disrupted. Disrupted in a positive manner, because someone found value in stopping and acknowledging that I was in crisis. They found value in saying and demonstrating you are not alone. We all hold power. Power in our thinking, power in our words, power in our tone, and power in our approach. Without mainstream advocacy like we witness for heart disease and diabetes and cancer, it is, unfortunately, our bias that has informed our approach to substance use disorders, also known as SUD. SUD, a health condition, is one that overshadows the prevalence of heart disease, diabetes, and cancer individually. SUDs have long been viewed as an individual's problem, not as a healthcare issue deserving of championship. Addiction has been flagged and discounted to a moral failing driven by bad decisions, as opposed to understanding and approaching it as the physiological disease it is. The alarming stigma that plagues the chronic medical condition of substance use disorder and addiction has driven inaction in many healthcare arenas. The lack of investment, education, humanistic individualized care has created industry-wide fractures in how we approach those with an SUD. The reality is that the cries of our families and our communities fall on deaf ears. Ears that are attuned to understand the diseases of the heart, the pancreas, and cells, though are unable to understand the science behind addiction. The lack of medical education fuels the lack of motivation to change, very quickly making SUD a problem for individuals having to navigate on their own without the support or empathy of others. Our ability to acknowledge or discount rests in the power of our words. Utterances which, without delay, can create an environment unwelcoming to others. Though the positive value of words is readily appreciated when we infuse affirmation, validation, and empathy, we tend to discount the power our words hold and underappreciate the palpable effects when our verbiage expresses judgment, shame, and disfavor. Referring to fellow humans as addicts, alcoholics, and junkies is inappropriate and diminishes hope and trust. Trust in a system of care that should be there for those in their moments of crisis, without judgment, without shame, and without prejudice. with the understanding and appreciation of how much power we hold, we in healthcare can work to change the narrative. Action is possible. My team and I have the privilege of working to motivate the largest healthcare organization in New York State to humanize and address substance use as part of usual care. Though a lot of healthcare education is targeted towards clinical professionals, we have found value in appreciating the power every single team member brings to the equation of patient care and the infrastructure that supports such. Recently, my team developed an initiative to drive self-reflection of 35,000 fellow healthcare professionals regarding their personal thoughts, their perceptions, and their attitudes towards substance use and addiction. The exercise, completed by over 15,000, allowed folks to reflect on their language, their biases, and the power they all hold in creating an environment of hope. The results, via self-reported surveys, demonstrated that people felt humbled by the sheer number affected by SUD and felt empowered by the respectful call to action to change. We can work to change the way we view, understand, and approach this debilitating disease where so many are marginalized and discounted. But this is not just about healthcare. Substance use and addiction is a conversation that is usually hidden under our dinner tables at home. And that conversation is populated by distaste, shame, fear, hate, and blame. This is about each one of us as members of the community. I said it before, and I'll say it again. We all have power. We all have the ability to shift this narrative humanistically. We all have the ability to approach the topic of substance use and addiction with care and compassion. Each one of us has the power to make a difference. We can all manifest a genuine approach with our family, our friends, and with each other. An approach which is populated with the understanding that if it was you, how would you like to be spoken with? If it was you, how would you like to be supported? If it was you, how would you like to be acknowledged? We all have the blueprint. And if we're willing to infuse patience, compassion, and empathy, we can change the trajectory of so many lives that may be in crisis. It is a challenging topic indeed, but we shouldn't be afraid to start the conversation and create a safe and brave space. 27 years ago, on that sunny morning of my car accident, that illustration of partnership was not from a healthcare professional. It wasn't an EMT, a nurse, nor a doctor. That flash of hope, extinguishing my hopelessness, was the consideration and voice of a school bus driver that witnessed the crash. The power that individual brought to that situation is commendable. Not just because of the immediate impact her words brought to my crisis, but the impact her words have had on my journey of life. You may be asking yourself, what can I do? Well, let's commit. Let's commit to continually self-reflect, to recognize our biases, to appreciate our common need for acknowledgement and identify what we can do differently. If you're willing to recognize your power, you'll see Your power is in your language. Your power is in your intent, and your power is in your approach. Individually, we all have the power to serve as conduits of hope for a disease process that still remains hopeless for far too many. Hope can be delivered. And as we strive to reframe and harmonize thinking and language revolving around SUD, we must accept the role acknowledgement plays in the caring for individuals. We can speak hope into the lives of others. I'm a benefactor of this. I'm a benefactor of someone who appreciated the power they held. In my moment of crisis, someone stopped, gave me their time, regardless of the decisions that brought me to that moment, and said, "You are not alone." Thank you.